In my elementary school days, and in those days, elementary school was from first grade to seventh grade. Um, the dress codes were radically different than they are today. For example, we could wear no shorts, of course. Our shirts had to have a collar. Um, the girls had to wear dresses, no slacks allowed for the girls. So it was much more structured. And yet that was actually really nice place to be from a standpoint that with that kind of structure, you didn't have a lot of the problems that I did experience in high school, where you had cliques and groups. And by the time I was in high school, the rules had been relaxed to the point where some bullies did exist. If they were caught physically abusing another student, they were expelled. But it was beginning to. I graduated in 1965. So in the mid-late 60s, of course, society changed tremendously for a number of reasons. But anyway, what I wanted to cover in this episode was, this was in high school. Since I worked in my dad's store, which I enjoyed, it wasn't a burden, I didn't have the time to hang around with my schoolmates after school. So I was on the outside looking in, so to speak. And there's a series that started in 1978 and ended in 84 called HappyDays. For some of y'all, maybe you've seen the reruns. But at any rate, it was just a place where the kids would gather after school. And and socialize and whatnot. And of course, the various characters that made that up made the whole series interesting. But anyway, we had I went to Avondale High School in Avondale Estates, Georgia. And there was a restaurant there called Hensler's. And I guess that would be the closest thing to HappyDays during that time. And the popular thing to eat there was people would get buttered French fries. And basically it was French fries and then just saturated with butter. And they catered to the younger crowd. In fact, they would sell a half order of fries to suit the students' budget better, I guess. But a lot of them would hang out there after school. And I just wasn't in that crowd. I always wondered what it would have been like to have been in that crowd, but never was. So happy days. The other thing about my high school years was, well, in fact, the entire time I worked for my dad, which was a long time, we would have to take inventory New Year's Eve so that we could prepare our financial statements. And so we had to count all the inventory and put a place of value on it. We do that New Year's Eve. So every New Year's Eve, come midnight, I'd hear the fireworks go off and horns blowing and stuff, but never went to a New Year's Eve party. And I was sitting here thinking, have I ever been to one? Maybe I have in my life, but I can't remember it. And I'm not a drinker, so it's not that. It just either if I went to one, it was so uh, boring or whatever, I didn't remember it. I don't think I've ever been to a New Year's Eve party, which probably kept me out of a lot of trouble in my lifetime. Um, and here I am about to turn 76 in January, and that's one thing in life that I don't regret missing at all. So anyway, life in the 50s and 60s was so much different than it is now. I've in some of my earlier videos, I've addressed some of the technological changes that have occurred that we take for granted now. I can remember, and this was after I had gone into business myself, that I got a pager. And that was a big deal. I got a pager, and now people can, then all I got to do is find a payphone, which were plentiful back then. Now you can't find a payphone because everybody's got a cell phone. So phone company can't make any money with payphones. And of course, when I was young, the telephones had a dial, and you go, click, 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 instead of the push buttons. And the phones we had on up until the early 60s were heavy as lead. They would make a good weapon because they were made out of bakelite. They were very, very heavy and durable. They never broke. But times changed. So it went from a more stylish phone to the Princess phone. Anyway, to football phones and baseball phones. And now you don't have a phone from the standpoint of it being connected to a landline. It's internet or cell phone. So those things have changed. My grandchildren won't even have a clue about any of that. Not a clue. Maybe if they see some old TV reruns, they'll see those things in use and then sort of wonder what they were. Well, I'm going to keep this one pretty short. Some of my videos in this series have run on to 15 minutes or more, which you may or may not have time to look at. So I'm going to sort of break them up into smaller productions. Please hit subscribe, notify, and like. I would appreciate it.